I am Tai, and today we want to talk about the market where the gold prices continue to surge. So the pressure on margin and pricing strategy is forcing the whole jewelry industry to rethink for the white precious metal. And with 18K white gold becoming an increasingly expensive material, platinum is really stepping back into the spotlight. We think this isn't just like a plan B. It's about leveraging platinum's inherent advantages, its durability, its natural color, and lasting value. So today we have Josh Helmich, a third generation jeweler who consults for major companies around the world, including PGI and Valterra Platinum. So Josh and I have been working and helping brands, manufacturers, I think from a more technical perspective usually, but having worked with a huge scope of different companies, we see the market holistically and globally. It's great to have you here, Josh, and share a little bit about the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Kai.
We actually hosted a forum at the Hong Kong Jewelry Fair in September 2025, and we did talk about the platinum opportunity. So maybe we can start with recapping some of the major points. The gold price hasn't stopped rising since then. And then more companies since then have
No,
got into platinum. So maybe we can start there. How platinum is an opportunity for retailers, first of all.
but yeah, it was interesting on the forum that we held because we had executives from multiple different countries. So we got quite a vast, different experience that they're each going through. Executive from India, Japan, Hong Kong market, China market, and then myself from
And also seeing
US
Europe as
based,
well.
but kind of more like an entire.
Yeah.
So it was every continent's kind of in a little bit different place because everyone's got different buying habits at the retail counter. That's for sure. Some markets are a little bit more investment driven, India, China, that's a little bit more. The Western world is, just jewelry driven, but not as from an investment standpoint. It's a market celebration or self-purchasing, things of that nature. So I think one thing from the retailer's perspective, and I do feel like retailers are starting to understand this, but it takes everyone in the supply chain to work because the retailers typically don't make the jewelry. So they also need the manufacturers to make it, to offer it so they can purchase it. So I do think that it does give them an opportunity as retailers to make a better
Mm.
margin at the counter. While we have seen some volatility with platinum as well, it's nowhere near what gold has been. In my personal opinion, I feel like platinum is probably priced roughly where it should have been a little while ago. We do have deficits in the platinum market coming from the mining sector. So I think platinum is in a good place. And at the retail counter, it offers an opportunity for retailers to give a better product and give better margin. Because one thing stands true anywhere I go around the world. Platinum to the consumers, at least consumers who know what platinum is.
The perspective is
Platinum
still
sits up
there
kind of
of its
like the
premiumship.
it is there.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's premium. It's the king of the castle. So people realize that, but there's a lot of misconception like platinum's too
Mhm.
expensive or I can't afford it. And at the retail level, and I can't speak across the world, but a lot of retail spots, they have newer salespeople coming in who are just not as experienced as some of the old guard. And I see this in the US. So talented new people who have a desire to be in the jewelry industry, but they're just not very well versed on the metals market. And then what platinum can offer them to at least explain to the customer what are the differences between platinum and 18K white, the durability differences, and then a product type, even if you don't have it, especially in the US or Europe,
Yeah.
most things are special order. So that's kind of a normal standard way of doing business. It's a little different in the China market. So maybe you can touch on that market a little bit. But I think it is a white metal premium. And it's a narrative that I think retailers are starting to gain traction, but there's a lot more that
Yeah,
can
I
be
think
done on
also
that
just
front.
from a consumer point of view, right? The consumers are getting a better product for their money. I
Yeah.
think just touching a little bit on the platinum pricing relative to gold, it's sitting somewhere between half and one third. It's lower and cheaper than 18 karat to manufacture, depending on the time, but it's still a little bit more expensive than 14K. So I think when we're talking about retail opportunity, I think one of the ones that like right away for me, it's the bridal segment because platinum is just that's where
Yeah.
it really has a lot of stories and have a lot of emotions with the consumers. Consumers know the exchange of platinum wedding bands. They know that platinum is a superior metal to hold diamonds and stones. So for me, it's like a no-brainer, like from 18K white switching into platinum for bridal. And I think this is already through the many years, 50 years of PGI marketing. I think it really got into the minds of the consumers. They know this stuff. So it's just about the retailers having to offer it. And I guess I understand in the past, they have their vendors that does a lot of 18K. 18K was cheaper to produce for a long time, but now it's not the case. So it really is, giving the consumers
Yeah.
what they want. Consumers are walking away with a better product. It doesn't have to be rhodium on a naturally yellow product with just 18K. And now you have a naturally white product with platinum. It's going to be much better for wear and tear resistance. It's basically an heirloom piece, and that's what bridal jewelry should be. And I think it's giving the consumers a better product. It's giving the brand a better reputation for the quality of products. And what you're saying is the retailers are also they're able to price it so they get more margin than 18K. So I mean, it's like, wow, we've checked all the
Yeah.
boxes. So what's happening that people are not moving in that area? But I think in the last 6 months, we do hear a lot more companies moving on bridal. I think we've talked to companies in Southeast Asia. We talked to companies in Europe. I'm sure you talked to many companies in the US. You helped a
Yeah.
lot of them improve on the alloys, converting a lot more of their bridal SKUs back into platinum 950. So yeah, the trend is definitely there. It's definitely moving. I think what we're saying is just we're summarizing all the key points and checking off all those boxes to make sure that people who are not aware should be aware that this is where it's
Yeah.
going. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think one other thing that's very important for the consumers is the
Mm-hmm.
education
Yeah.
side, which is important for the retailers, like I said, the sales associates to learn. And, one of the things I hear about platinum from consumers sometimes is I had a platinum piece and it bent or it dented or
Yeah.
it dinged. There has been some what I would call inferior platinum alloys that have seeped into the market. Not
Right.
as much at this point in time, but previously 15,
Yeah.
20 years ago. And they were very soft. Now, they were easy to manufacture, but it's important that consumers also understand like that is not what the current state of things are. But the retailer needs to educate them. No, this is platinum ruthenium or something of that nature. This is what the large global famous jewelry brands use. You're not going to have those things just because you had a problem 15 or 20 years ago. A little
Yeah.
bit with gold too, with the
Yeah.
rhodium plating, right? People get it. It's very
Yeah.
white and
Yeah.
shiny and looks so nice.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, so I mean, I have pieces, especially 14K, that have,
Yeah.
I mean, a year later, I mean, they're like
My
mellow gold.
cousin bought
Like
a
it is
wedding band from a
significant.
major international brand. It's 18K and it's like 1 year in and it's yellow.
Yeah.
It's like that champagne
Yeah.
yellow color, like the Italian champagne gold.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. It's crazy. Yeah. But I think going back to
Definitely.
your
Well,
previous
and I
point,
think
I
your
think we
point
should
in the,
clarify it here as well, because a lot of people are not aware. Having talked to, so I've been talking to a lot of manufacturers that does 18 and they don't do too much platinum. And yeah, this whole entire myth of saying platinum it's not hard enough compared to 18K. There's a lot of education that needs to be done because we're not using alloys from like the days of like 19th century and Cartier was doing this. Like we're not using like platinum iridium.
right.
Maybe there are still people using it, but they definitely should not be using it. You want to touch a little bit on where things stand, like globally, and what alloys people you still see people using, and where we all should be going. One question I get all the time is why do we stand by platinum ruthenium? So speaking with a lot of companies manufacturing in Asia, they're like, why is there this platinum ruthenium, that requirement? It's not easy to cast. Like, why? Who said it? So if you can help us clarify that.
I can't necessarily state who set that. I will say Tiffany and Co. That is what they use, and some of the
Mm.
other
Harry Winston,
maisons.
I believe, as
And
well,
you know, the
with
one thing
platinum
about
roux.
yeah, one of the main things about platinum brew is it's an all-around alloy. So it fabricates very well. A lot of these other alloys, they don't fabricate near as well. There's so many different alloys coming from different parts of the world, but platinum copper is very common. But then other parts of the world, you see these other mixtures in there. It's copper cobalt, it's copper
Mm.
palladium, a
Still a
lot
lot
of
of people using
palladium
palladium now. Yeah.
based.
That was one
Yeah.
of the first alloys
Um,
being pushed in Japan. And a lot of people feel like that's still the best.
yep.
I think from a casting point of view, it's pretty easy to cast, but it doesn't make a better product, does it?
Thing is, no, and that's the problem because a lot of those are still, I consider, too soft as cast. So when they're too soft, then while it might be easy for the manufacturer, it's the retailer who has to get the negative feedback from the consumer. And you
Yeah.
want the consumer to have the best product. I mean, typically things that are built very well are not the easiest to build. You can look at luxury car companies, luxury handbags. I mean, there's a lot of work
Mm.
that goes into those. And that doesn't mean PT Rue is more expensive than the other platinum alloys, but it does require a little bit more on the
Yeah.
manufacturing. But I would say one of the reasons also
Mm.
the most white. So when you want to look at the platinum when it's shiny, it's white. When you start to add things like copper and cobalt, you know, even though it polishes up nicely,
Mm.
but it's not as white. And we have these measurements scientifically, and that the customer wants to see a nice shiny bright and hold that. So platinum roux cast, it's harder than the other standard alloys cast. When you fabricate it, it's
Yeah.
also a little bit harder. Some of the platinum alloys do not fabricate well at all. So platinum cobalt, while it is a great alloy for casting, and you know it's out there, not everyone likes to have their platinum slightly magnetic. It also is not a good fabrication alloy. That's why you typically don't see
Yeah.
platinum cobalt made into tubes,
Yeah.
sheet, or stamping product. It's not very, doesn't process very well. And I think platinum roux kind of shares all that. Plus, platinum roux is
Right.
all in the PGM family, so there's nothing outside.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes it the
And I think
purest of
just touching on
pure,
this
I
and a very
guess,
quick point,
if you
something
want
you
to put
touched
it
on
like
too, it's that polarity, isn't it? It's a lot of people complain about tool wearing when producing for platinum ruthenium. Well, yeah,
yeah,
because it's so much stronger and resistant to wear and tear.
yeah,
It's too weary for the manufacturers, but it's a huge benefit for the consumers. If it's easy to,
yeah,
shave off or easy to cut, then the consumer's going to get a ring that's going to ding and bang and metal is going to fly off. It's because that metal is so good.
yeah,
That's why it takes a little bit more work in the manufacturing state. So I think,
yeah.
are we looking at the consumer experience, the consumer quality, or are we looking for ease for manufacturing? So from a retailer standpoint, I think they definitely should insist.
I agree. And you know, there are some newer alloys that
Oh,
are on the market,
absolutely.
coming on the market, that are even a knockout
Mm.
from PT Rue. So I think just the fact that there is all this work going on, because you can always improve. If you look at any type of
Mm.
successful company in the world that sells a product, they're
Yeah.
constantly trying to improve it. Ours, they're improving. You know, things can always get better. Food's a little different because I think if you hit like a home run, I'm just going to use one example, like Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah.
It's been the same recipe for
Mm.
probably 100 years. There's nothing to improve on. They tried and they failed because it was
Cherry
already,
Coke,
you know, Coke.
vanilla Coke.
There- some of the
Yeah.
I think when it
Yeah.
comes to technology, if you look at the AI companies, you look at the software
It's
companies, you look
improving
at
and
the
evolving.
hardware, anything from the technical,
Mm.
you need to evolve
And
and
the knowledge
improve.
and the technology is
So
there. I
that's
mean,
why I
one of
say
the
just because,
projects you've been working on the last 2 years is to improve the alloys. And there are a lot of metallurgists around the world
yeah,
working on this too. So we don't need to go back to formulas
yeah,
20 years ago. We do have new ones. Yeah. And, we're here to help the trade
yeah,
adapt and gain that knowledge. So,
yeah,
sorry, I think naturally we just like the tech side so
definitely.
well that we already sort of went that way. So, coming
But
back a little bit. Yeah.
I,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I do have one thing I like to touch on in terms of the retailer and the consumer. So, having just spent time in Italy,
Mm.
we were at the Vicenza show. I came back. I was at Centurion. I was at AGTA,
Yeah. What's the word on
GJX.
the street? Yeah.
I got a chance to speak to a lot of companies from around the globe. And because of the price of metal, specifically gold, things are really starting to separate in all the markets. So if you're selling 18K product, is actually still strong. So if you want to
Mm.
sell 18K yellow and rose and platinum, it's strong. The natural diamonds and the bigger sizes and the ombres, and it's actually picking up steam. The colored stone industry, the much better colored
Mm.
stones are selling very well. It's kind of that mid range, though, that is becoming a bit of a challenge. And I think for the retailers, this is where they really need to adopt, you know, like, are they going
Mm.
for here or do they have to go lower? Because 14K is very expensive for what it, I mean, that used to be like the cheaper alternative, which was
Yeah.
majority sold in the US. It's not inexpensive anymore. So now we're starting to see parts of Europe, US, 10K, 9K. They're just
Yeah.
inferior products.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that retailers also understand who their client base and what they're offering
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. We
You know,
definitely saw
there's
that
a
in
time.
Vicenza, didn't we? Like the high end is getting higher and they have a very strong hold in the
No,
growing market. The lower end,
yeah,
it's going lower. I've never seen so much titanium and silver at the Vicenza show. And
yeah,
like people doing 14K is going down to silver and silver is going to titanium. That's where it's going. But yeah, as you're saying, that whole
yeah.
entire middle market. But you know what's funny about that middle market? That middle market is where the volume is at. So traditionally, we do
It
work
is.
quite a bit with the middle market retailers, and I think those guys are really, in a sense, seeing a struggle. So, how would you see the opportunities ahead for people positioned in the middle? So, I think we covered a little bit about bridal, right? For the middle players, bridal is always going to be still, I would say, the key single segment or the key single purchase reason. So if like I would say it makes up for maybe 30% or 40% of some of the brand's businesses for bridal. So we talked about how platinum could play a role there. But what about beyond bridal? Do you see an opportunity there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like men's jewelry has come on
Mm.
very strong globally. It's always been popular in the US, but I feel like it was much more
Mm.
popular like in silver, kind of like big bull. I don't want to call it like biker jewelry, but
Mm.
heavy chains. And there was a lot of kind of
Mm.
lower caratage gold or silver, titanium, things of that nature. But then you see how successful men's jewelry,
Yeah.
especially in platinum,
Yeah.
does in India,
Mm.
in the Middle East, So I think there's a huge opportunity for
Mm.
different product offerings because the segment of men wearing jewelry even 7, 8 years ago was very small.
Yeah.
Outside, take the wedding band off the tip. Now all of a sudden, I'm just using this as like
Mm. Mm.
sports icons,
Yeah.
soccer players, cricket players, baseball players are wearing
Yeah.
strands of pearls, and
Yeah.
full sapphire necklaces. And these baseball players, while they might play in the U.S., most of them are foreign
Mm.
born. They're from South
Yeah.
America, Japan,
Yeah.
whatever the case. So it's becoming more popular for men to wear jewelry. And the thing is, I think there's an opportunity because men
Yeah.
also like to feel the weight of their
Yeah.
jewelry. If it's a chain or it's
Yeah.
a bracelet, and you can use platinum
Right.
mixed with beads. There is ways to really
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
fashion, and then I think everyday diamond
Yeah.
jewelry also. Self-purchasing, stacking bands. I mean, specifically in the U.S.,
Mm.
it is so popular. Like all my white friends, they all wear 3, 4, 5 bands. They stack them on multiple fingers. It's like a diamond
Right.
band, a black diamond
Yeah.
band, maybe sapphire, thin ones.
Yeah.
Stack them and you play around and you're going to mix
Yeah.
yellow gold with platinum, but it's an opportunity for platinum to get
I think we
more
can deep dive a
more market
little bit
share.
more into this one because I think it's really gem setting metal that we're talking about,
Yeah.
be it men's or fashion jewelry. We're talking about platinum being a default white metal for studding. And we already raised the points. It's cheaper than 18K. It's not cheaper than 14K. Platinum 950, but it's a way better product. So how do you, if you're a retailer, how would you weight that? So if you're building onto a gem set product and you're kind of priced in the middle and middle high retailer, like where do you see that platinum opportunity come
Yeah.
in? Yeah. What's your major considerations? Yeah.
I think one of my main things, if I was
Mm,
advising a retailer, you either pull your customer slightly
right.
up or you're going to pull them down.
Mm,
And best salespeople always want to pull them
yeah.
upwards. But pulling them upwards isn't just about, oh, it's a bigger stone. A lot of it just
Mm,
then
mm,
gets
mm.
down to education. Like all my years of wholesale and retail, and
Yeah.
especially with the amount of gem setting. Well, I don't want my diamonds to fall out or sapphires or whatever it is. Now, platinum is by far the most secure to hold the stones. There has been
We've done
scientific
many
tests
research.
run on this, long. So that's one thing, because the difference even between 14K and
Yeah.
platinum. So if you have less wear and tear, less maintenance required and all of that, that's an easy push up to the category. Or for
It's
men are
true.
very
Yeah.
hard on their jewelry. And now that more men are wearing stones and they've got
Yeah.
diamonds, or whatever the case, that's also it's going to
Yeah.
withstand the punishment, especially, and I would say for men and for women. So for women, especially on these bands, right? You're stacking all these bands. Well, white gold bands stacked between
Yeah.
yellow gold, rose gold,
It's gonna
that
wear off very
rhodium wears
quick.
off at least
Yeah.
5 times faster than a
I'm
band
hearing you what
alone.
you're saying, and I'm
And
visualizing. I'm
that's fine.
standing at a counter and I'm offered 14K and platinum, let's say for like a ring I'm wearing like this, there was like a black pearl on it. If the price is more or less the same, platinum is still more expensive than 14K. But given the quality, the weight, and everything I get, and it's cheaper than 18K and just not significantly more expensive for 14K, I yeah, I think it's a deal, like value for money to be purchasing the platinum option. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying to think from a consumer point of view. And I was like, why would I go with 14 if I can go platinum 950, right? Yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's
Yeah.
explaining
Yeah.
the additional benefits. And typically when people
Mm,
buy now, like they want to
yeah,
buy for it to
it's
last.
true. Yeah. That whole quick
So
fashion culture
to
is,
it's
yeah,
expensive.
sustainability.
With the
Yeah.
price of all metal, especially even silver now, like
Yeah.
jewelry is
Yeah.
much more expensive. So if that
Yeah.
is gonna be what you're gonna purchase, there's a lot of competition against jewelry. There's
Mm,
travel, there's
yeah.
entertainment, all sorts of
Yeah.
different factors of the
Yeah.
luxury market. You want to understand what the best quality
Yeah.
is for the money. That might be a
Yeah.
little more expensive, but if you
Yeah.
educate them properly, I think nine
Yeah.
times out of 10,
S-
you
s-
will
So the
be able to
consumers
close
need to
the deal.
understand. I think understanding consumer would definitely go for the platinum option. So coming back again to where we started, do you see the retailer doing better business with the platinum option than the 14K, for example, for products, be it bridal or beyond? Yeah.
I think there's a huge
Yeah.
opportunity for them to do so. It's just which retailers are going to
Yeah.
dive in and which ones aren't. You know, some retailers are going to
Mm,
remain status
yeah.
quo regardless, uh, but
Yeah.
they also might not be aware. As I give speaking engagements, it's amazing to me how many
Not
retailers
aware.
are just
Yeah.
not aware
Yeah. Yeah.
of
Especially a
things.
lot of the fashion brands are
So
not aware.
how they are,
Yeah.
yeah, they want to improve the product they offer,
They're just not aware.
but they need
Yeah.
to know what's out there.
Yeah.
Um, and they also have the
Oh,
power to
for
push their
sure. It all starts from
manufacturers.
the
I
retailer.
mean, they're hold
Oh, yeah,
they hold the
absolutely.
power for sure.
Yeah. So for the
So
retailer, you
yeah,
also
I think
mentioned it helps them bring up the quality of the products. But I think having platinum in the
yeah,
counter also helps lift the
yeah,
brand.
you need to feel it. But you
Yeah.
really need to feel the weight, because typically when people
Yeah.
feel a platinum
Yeah.
band versus a gold band, and now some of these stores are, because
Yeah.
they're going into 10K. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
drastic difference. And
It,
look, there
it's
is a market for
yeah.
everything. I'm not saying 10K doesn't have a market. I'm talking more about fine
Yeah.
jewelry, independent retailers,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So they're
That
selling a
nature.
product that has better performance. It's not going to fade in color. It does not require as much post sales maintenance work. I think the perception of platinum helps
Yep.
lift the overall quality and perhaps brand image. It's interesting to see how Pandora is now using platinum
Yeah.
to uplift their brand
Well,
and to uplift the quality of the product, supposedly. So yeah, it definitely has that effect. We see people doing it.
I think the Pandora effect
Mm,
is going to be significant as it
yeah,
morphs into next year. I mean, as I saw, initially it's only 30
mm,
stores they're rolling out in Europe. The rest of the stores in Europe
yeah,
by the end of the year,
yeah. So
globally
I think
next
just to
year.
clarify what Pandora is doing, Pandora
So,
is they're switching from
yeah,
silver over to a new material of Evershine, which it's secret, and they're plating it with platinum. They're plating it with platinum. It works for us because they're talking about all the greatness of platinum, naturally white, and how it's a much more durable metal. So they're hypoallergenic. So they're communicating a lot of the greatness for platinum, even though they're just plating it. I think the conversation we're having right now, it's actually creating platinum jewelry. And imagine if, as a retailer, you're actually
yeah,
retailing a platinum range. I think that has a lot of uplifting factor for the brand and for the collections that you're offering. And then we touched on margin.
right.
Without going too deep into that, I think holistically, do you see retailers doing better business with platinum than say offering 14K in terms of margin? Yeah.
I have seen an uptick, the retailers I have spoken to. So it's interesting because, and this ties a little bit into the retailer and the manufacturer. Because gold prices have
Mm,
gone up so far, everyone's had
mm,
to cut their margin on gold. Hands down. It's just, I mean, we started beginning of 25 at gold around, don't 100% quote me on this. I think it was
mm.
2,000 an ounce. It was
Yep.
5,300 by the end
Yep.
of the year or something of that nature, or 2,300 to 5,300. So the margin has had to be
Yeah.
trimmed on all gold products.
All right.
The manufacturers had to trim, the retailers have to trim. Obviously, it depends on the product type. If it's a 1 gram earring
Mm,
stud, probably not. But I'm talking more
yeah.
bands, necklaces,
Yeah.
chains, things of that nature. Platinum, they haven't had to do that because platinum has gone up in price, but it still sits in a
Mm,
very sellable range. So the stores that have gone deeper into
mm.
platinum have had great success, but it's not as simple as just getting more product. You've got
Right.
to have these other tools to be able, your counter
Mm,
salespeople need to
mm.
understand some of the basics, uh, the do's, the don'ts, the differences. A lot of consumers just call white metal
Yeah.
silver. So we have educated consumers and we have a lot of uneducated consumers. So you've got to walk them through what the differences are. Even
Mm,
calling it silver, it's not silver,
yeah.
even if it's platinum. So I think they're that have gone more into
Yeah.
that have had great success. But there has to be a
Yeah.
want from them too, because Static Pro doesn't cut it anymore. Natural
Yeah.
diamond market has shifted.
Yeah.
The labs
Yeah.
synthetic market has shifted. The color
With
stone
all the
market's shifted. So
repricing
we're in a
that's
new
happening,
era.
it's not status quo. It's not business as usual. I think absolutely you're right. Like retailers have to rethink their positioning, rethink their product strategy, and rethink their pricing strategy. And I think that's where it's interesting to see. And just adding my two cents, I have worked with a couple of retailers out here in Asia, and I think what doesn't work is when retailers say, "Oh, let me try like 5 pieces," and they throw 5 platinum rings into a mix of whatever they already have. That's never really going to work because the salesperson, as you were saying, all these conversations are coming around to full circle. They won't be able to say, oh, this is a platinum ring, this is an 18K, this is a 14K, but they're all white metal to begin with, and then try to get the salesperson to explain to the consumer and then close that deal. It's a lot of work for that salesperson too, to be fair. Where I do see success is when
Yeah.
brands do a capsule, maybe 12 pieces, maybe 10
Yeah.
pieces, slightly separate counter, put it aside from what it's already in the counter. Because I think one of the main thing that we did was because with platinum root, you don't need to rhodium plate. But if you have to be very picky about it, it's still a
Right.
slightly different color than rhodium plating. So you don't want to be putting it side by side. But if you have a
Yeah.
separate display and a small capsule, just to talk about that, to capture the eyeball, I think retailers will have a much better experience and will have a much better success working with a new capsule. So it does take a bit of commitment from the
Okay.
retailer end to make that switch. Also,
Yeah.
because as you're saying, like some of the manufacturers that they order from, is a lot of 14K, 18K, they not necessarily know or be able to do or produce in platinum. So I think that's another
Yeah.
issue. And I think that's another issue we solve on a daily basis, Josh, that we help companies source
Yes.
components, materials, chains, clasps, casting factories, anything. I think that's one thing too, is to getting accessibility to the manufacturing. But without going too far into manufacturing, because Planet ABC, we've got tons of other videos and everything on that, and definitely we're going to come back on a weekly basis addressing all those. I think we can talk
Yeah.
about what are the challenges. What do you see? Like, why are some of the retailers not jumping on this opportunity? Because for me, we've talked about this for 2 years. We had a forum in September, and it's still
Yeah.
mind-boggling when I walk into certain factories and they say, "Yeah, 80% of my stuff is still 18K. Why are your clients not doing platinum?" And then they're like, "Oh, they're just not aware of it." So, from your experience or from your network of conversations, what are some of the major challenges for retailers to take on this opportunity?
I think it really comes down to a couple main points. One of them, and I wouldn't say this is global, but specifically in the US, Europe to a degree, but US specifically, almost every retail store has a jeweler in it or
Mm,
jewelers in the store. Like they do repairs there, they also do custom work. If you don't have jewelers who are comfortable working on platinum or who have trained on just the differences,
mm.
the jewelers have a lot of
Oh, right.
influence. The back of the house has a lot of
Mm.
influence on the front. So it is very important to have the jewelers educated on platinum. Talking
Right. I was
simple
just going to ask it.
sizings
Mm.
and setting, soldering, lasering, polishing. And most jewelers, if taught right, can pick up what I call like the basics of platinum smithing
Mm.
quite quickly,
Mm.
but it is different. Both. That is one aspect I think I have seen from some stores making
Okay.
a push. Oh, my jewelers don't want to work on it. Well, repair business in the US at most stores is like 15 to 20% of
Yeah, I
all
do
revenue.
hear
So
resizing to be an issue,
it's
especially with gem set products, especially rings. We're talking about sizing, and they want to buy off the counter and just want to resize. I hear this also out here in Asia, in Hong Kong, all the time. But I have to stock like 5 sizes. But is it that difficult? What is the availability to resize? What's the technology? What's the package? What's the knowledge around that?
so especially with gem set. I mean, the main thing is
Mm,
you just need a laser welder, and laser welder is very common in most places now. Most of the stores has a laser welder, so it's just you can't really solder typically that because platinum, of course, such higher temperatures that getting the torch that hot can pose a challenge,
mm,
smoking the diamonds, as I would call it, or damaging the gemstones. There are ways to heat sink it and cover them and do this, but laser welding is
mm.
widely accepted globally. Um, so if you learn how to do it properly in terms of sizing,
Right.
it's not a problem. It takes a little more time than soldering, but one of the differences is when you're laser welding, you are adding
Mm.
more platinum 950. So it's the same composition. When you're
Yeah, it's not going to
soldering,
hit now, has it?
doesn't matter if it's platinum or gold, 18K gold soldered is
Right.
not 18 karat gold. It's got a lower content of gold,
Mm,
coppers, and content. Platinum solder is not,
mm.
doesn't have a lot of platinum in it. They're mostly made up of palladium. So I think those are just some basics, but if you learn how to do it, it's quite quick. So I think that's one
Okay.
aspect of why the retailer, some retailers would say
Yeah.
is
But
sourcing.
so coming back to the
So
first
not
point,
all
though, I think
manufacturers
there
are.
are information on platinumlearning.com that is run by PGI USA, so people can definitely check that out. But I think back to that point, I think we should do a
Yep.
couple of videos on platinum APC as well. Just very specifically, how do you resize? Because I get asked all the time. They're like, "Oh, but I
Yep.
only have one of these diamond rings and I want to sell it off the counter." And then resizing is an issue with platinum. And I'm like, it shouldn't be. I mean, deal with your 18K, I'm sure is doable with platinum. So maybe it's just the know-how. So yeah, definitely worthwhile to do
It
videos
is
and contents around that. Sorry, just second point.
100. And I was going to say
Yeah.
sourcing a product, because stores typically work with certain brands that
Mm,
they buy from, certain vendors. Brands
mm,
they sell might
right.
not offer platinum. You sell a lot of their product. So
Mm,
that does pose a challenge to the retailer. Or if they do the platinum lead time, one thing I've heard is, oh, the platinum lead time is 8 weeks, but I can
right.
get the gold in 2. So those are challenges that have to be brought to
Yeah.
our attention, of the brand,
So it can
wholesaler or
direct
the
them in the
they're
right
like,
direction
I need more
to the right
product.
places. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes you got to push uphill. Like the retailers need to push uphill for this is what I want. Plenty of
Plenty.
vendors out there. So can you get this to me? If not, I will find it. But it's important also, I think, going back to platinumlearning.com, there is the
Mm,
resource book, I
yeah.
believe.
There's our source book. Yeah.
Because
Mm,
the source book, and that's one thing where you hear retailers like, well, I need a platinum chain or I need this. They don't know where to go. So having a tool to be able to know where to go to get platinum product if
yeah.
your vendor doesn't carry it, I think is also very important. So those, I think, are probably the 2 top things. The third one would be, again, the counter, the
Mm,
education, and the marketing. Now, PGI offers
yeah.
a ton of marketing stuff that these
Mm,
retailers use for free. And I think with AI now, you could whip something up for your store in like seconds, honestly. Campaigns, anything you want to do, but it's a matter
mm.
of doing that. And so I think those are kind of the top 3
Yeah. And
see.
we've been working in all these areas, right? I think uh, we've been looking at these opportunities for the last 2 years. I think we are always sitting around 8% to 12%. There are definitely a lot of companies that already made a move on it. There are companies that already converted. I think it's
Yeah.
just like, have we not hit the 15% critical mass for the majority of retailers to pick up on this trend? Right now, I would say a lot of more innovative brands are doing it. They're launching capsules, they're launching brand new collections in platinum. We see early trend adopting retail brands that's already picking up on this and they're converting a lot of their diamond and bridal back to platinum. Well, and there are also a lot of different brands asking for different formulas and alloys for platinum. But I think it's just like we're kind of stuck, not exactly at that 15%, like a lot of the majors. And maybe this is where the middle tier retailers are struggling, to find their position. Do we go up high or do we go low? Because, they have the volume and they also have the footprint. And we haven't seen that scale of retailer really making a drastic change for platinum yet. And I think it's like, yeah, it's just going to happen. And what does it take to get them to realize there's an opportunity in this? Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of the big majors I know have
Mm,
started pushing into
yeah.
platinum. Here in the US, there's
Right.
much more room
Right.
and opportunity to grow. For those bigger companies, it's the entire supply chain. So it's
Yeah.
ensuring that their suppliers
True.
make the platinum at still a
Yeah.
competitive price. I have seen suppliers around the globe who, if you order the platinum, charge
Oh,
way out of
okay.
range for what it
Yeah.
should be. That, that is something that does happen. I'm going to
Right.
force you not to buy it by putting the price so far
So it's
off.
kind of in this early stages. People are exploring and it still needs to settle.
Yeah,
So I guess the message to retailers, if you're a first mover, if you are an innovative business, then definitely something to look at. Yeah. But
yeah,
there are
yeah,
things that needs to be figured out. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And for a majority of the globe, in terms of like
Mm,
India, China market, US, Canada, the major, all of Europe, we don't really have issues with refining
yeah.
and those type of
Yeah.
things. Some of these newer markets that are up and coming
Mm,
that you and I have spent time speaking with retailers, there is a supply chain constraint just in terms of
Mm,
actually refining platinum metals. It is coming online.
yeah.
Middle East is now going to have its first
Mm,
PEM refinery, I
mm,
think, coming on board
mm,
this year, I believe, which will be important, and because
yeah.
it's not just for jewelry. I think a lot of the public isn't aware of
Right.
all the things that platinum and
Yeah.
palladium are actually used for
Right.
in the world that they use every day, the glass on their phones,
Mm,
cancer treatment,
automobile. Mm,
catalytic converters, obviously
yeah.
being,
Yeah.
yeah, which,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah. So I think it's fair to say that on the platinum front, there are still, I think, two aspects. I think the knowledge is there, the technology is there, the adaptation to technology and the distribution of and the availability of it can still improve. We're still
uh,
at an early stage. A lot of countries are still building infrastructure to be able to process it. So it's not unfair to say that,
yeah,
it's not 100% like everything's streamlined and ready to go. But definitely things are coming online very quickly. Yeah. Okay. So wait, yeah,
I
go ahead.
think people go ahead. I was going to add, and I think even the equipment push has been quite
Yeah.
significant the past few years. Platinum casting machines used to be a lot more than gold. And for the bigger centrifugal ones, they are more. There's a lot of different units out there now that work very well for smaller platinum casting that are in line with a gold
Mm,
casting machine price wise. There's a lot of equipment, new polishing compounds, new tools specifically for platinum that have come online that is going to make the job of the jeweler or the larger scale manufacturer that much easier
yeah.
to produce in platinum. And that's important for them to know because some of that technology was a little bit of a constraint. And I will say when metal prices were all low, I'm talking not that long ago, even 3 years,
Mm,
2.5 years ago, gold at 1,500, maybe a little less, platinum around 1,000. I found that companies and manufacturers, brands, anyone who produced jewelry, they weren't as excited. They looked at every equipment purchase as like a
yeah.
major
Yeah.
endeavor, right? Because price for
Yeah.
the material was actually
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
very relatively low. Those days are over. So now that equipment all of a sudden becomes a fraction of the cost.
Mm,
An extra 5% margin
yeah.
or 10% margin is quite
Yeah.
significant for everyone in the supply chain today, where that wasn't exactly the case even
Mm,
36 months
mm,
ago, to be honest. So I think some of the manufacturers and brands are thinking about things much quicker, where it used to be, well, I got to
yeah.
spend
It's
50,000
an
on this new
investment.
piece of equipment.
Mm,
1,000 is a lot. But now it's like compared to what I'm paying for these
yeah.
metal prices,
Yeah.
what margin I could be
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah.
something I should,
Yeah. And the
they're willing
excitement
to
I
think about.
guess that we can share also is that we do hear a lot more platinum relevant and platinum specific equipment being moved in the market. There is a lot of pickup
Yeah.
from different brands, can't name them, but and yeah, there's a lot more
Yeah.
innovation and new technology and new companies getting involved with platinum. We see that in the trade fair. Like I used to go to a trade fair and you ask about the guys in Turkey and they're like, what's platinum? But now I hear they're also producing equipment like burnishing and
Yeah.
tumbling. Like they never thought about platinum, but now these things are coming online. So when you can see that the supply and the equipment and the supply chain is growing around platinum, there's definitely going to be excitement around it. So Josh, what do you see happening in
Yeah.
2026? What are some of the major trends? Do you see the conversion picking up? Do you see this being led by the retail end or any other initiative in the trade, including PGI, including technology that can really shape where things are going to go this year?
Yeah. I do see, I mean, the
Mm,
trend had already started. I do see it continuing. I see it continuing amongst the various different sectors: bridal, gemstone, jewelry, stackable jewelry, but men's jewelry, premium chains, things of that nature. Also,
mm,
product development have a real opportunity for that because with new technology, there are ways to make things hollow, to do different types of things that gives a big look that
mm,
just solid, that has endless weight too. So technology can help drive this. So I think part of it will be the retailers. part of it's also, and I put an emphasis on the designer brands, because the designer brands drive trends. And if you drive trends and you build things and something you can talk about, the big manufacturers also pick up on that. The big manufacturers don't
They don't.
drive trends typically, but
Yeah.
they will
Once
adopt
the
them. They
international
will
luxury
adopt
brands
them.
have
They
something
will,
and they're like, wow, that's cool. They're right on it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I think margin premium storytelling. I think in this day and age,
Mm,
it's very important to relate to the customer. Already
mm,
pre-shop online, though, but they still go into brick and mortar. You really got to tell a story. Tell a story about platinum. Tell a story about the natural diamond, the emerald, whatever it is. People want to connect. I do find that people don't just want to
mm.
buy like the most generic thing now and not talk about it. So doesn't mean you need to give them an entire
Right.
book of info, but being able to connect with them and tell them, because people want to know. They want to know where a
Yeah.
lot of their products are
And
from now. You know, where's
yeah.
that car produced?
And
Where's
just
that
doing
food?
a bit of a,
Yeah.
what do you call it? Not a commercial, kind of just mentioning it. One of the projects that we are working on at Platinum Guild International is the Platinum Guild Circle, which is a digital product
Right.
passport. And also on the provenance end of it, the origin end of this as well.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're trying to get that online. Do you see the digital product passport as being a major tool for retailers to communicate with the consumers? Yeah.
I do. Now, one thing I will say is the consumers, specifically in America, aren't aware of
Mm,
digital product passports yet. Now, in the EU, it is coming online. The EU governing bodies is requiring these to come online for certain product segments.
mm.
And it's a digital tool, which in this day and age of 30
Yeah,
second clips and the speed at which people operate on their phone, to have a digital product passport that carries the info, that who the designer was, where it was
yeah,
manufactured, the date it was manufactured, and that digital product also transfers with the physical product if it's ever sold, because the secondhand market for luxury
yeah.
is explosive. Like the growth of the secondhand jewelry market and the handbag market
Mm, mm.
is, I mean, you go anywhere in the world. I know they've got the big one in Shenzhen. You go to Tokyo, they've got store after store, US. Secondhand luxury market is huge. This is going to be a selling tool for to help verify the product, because we have a lot of fraudulent stuff out in the market in this day and age. So as that product goes along a journey, people, and we've seen the studies done all over the globe, people are willing to pay a little bit more money for something where they know where the components came from, and it is from a verified source, and it doesn't have child labor or any of the other negative connotations that can come from certain types of product around the world. So I think that, and I think the innovation, new alloys. I think Inovio will be fully coming online this year. Continued manufacturing improvements. I mean, you and I have spoken to a lot of the equipment manufacturers. They're continuing to push new platinum equipment deep in a research and development pipeline.
True.
Almost no technology
Yeah.
development.
We saw a lot of it
And
in the last 5 years because the entire trade has,
yeah,
yeah,
and
there's a
it's
lot more
coming on
focus
strong.
around technology around platinum, equipment around platinum as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I think of a digital product passport as just like how people like to share their
Yeah. It's also a great tool for
you
the
store your memories.
salesperson because it's all there, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to memorize anything. It's all there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Which I think is important because we have
Mm,
much higher turnover for
right.
the sales associates, now. Turnover in the job market is much higher than it was
Yeah.
10 or 15 years ago. People stick with their jobs for long, long periods of time. People are
Yeah.
turnover much quicker, all the way from your your
Yeah.
your kind of mid-level workers all the way
Yeah.
up to executive. We
Yeah.
do see this
I
across
think
the
the
globe.
digital product passport also brings two other things. It really brings the jewelry story because it's not mass manufactured. A lot of jewelry is handcrafted. There is a fabrication or a human element to creating that piece. And a lot of it, it's not communicated and it's not appreciated. I think the digital product passport can really bring that story to life. What jewelry really means and the craftsmanship and the artisanship that gets involved. The material, we're saying provenance, origin, but also
Yeah.
going a little bit deeper, if it's a diamond, if it's a precious stone, if it's platinum, what kind of goodness or what kind
Yeah.
of impact does the mining side of it bring to, on the ESG level to
Yeah.
those mining communities, to those countries? I think there's a lot of stories behind that in there too. So I think the
Yeah.
digital product passport is really communicating the value of jewelry from the material,
Yeah.
yeah, from the
I,
design, from the artisanship, from the making, and it adds so much more than just a simple transaction to someone who's acquiring it. Yeah.
I agree. And just quickly to kind of wrap that up, most people don't realize what, especially platinum, natural diamonds, what they do to build these communities. They build all the
Yeah.
hospitals, all the schools. All that revenue comes for very poor areas that otherwise would have nothing, that all of a sudden
Mm.
can offer this to the people that work in those countries with those rare, materials. And the other thing that I think with the DPP is that it, like you said, it tells a
Mm.
story, and it
Yeah.
you can share that story, and people can then share that story. You know, everyone wants to share
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, just to share the unknown, because most of the public has no idea how long it takes to make a piece of jewelry. I think they think it's like stamped out from like a toy
Yeah.
factory. Like, oh, the boom, done. Like, even in a mass manufacturing jewelry factory, it still has to go through
Yeah.
a lot of hands and a
Yeah.
lot of process
Absolutely.
to get to the end consumer. And they don't realize there's a lot of handwork, even with all the technology. There's a lot
Yeah.
of hand craftsmanship, and people like that story.
How
DP
helps bring,
helps
yeah.
tell that story
Yeah.
because
And I
on
think
it.
one of the challenges for the retailers to take these tools and turn it into an experience. And I think that's what consumers are looking for too. They're not looking for a
Yes.
simple transaction because a lot of times when people come in to buy jewelry, I mean, there's
Yep.
really two reasons, right? It's really to commemorate something, or it's something to award a certain emotion and to capture a certain important moment in their lives, or to commemorate something. I mean, it's very emotional. And how do we turn that purchase not as a just a transaction across the counter, like walk in a grocery store? So we're creating all these tools,
Yep.
these fantastic
Yep.
beautiful jewelry pieces that then the retailer can build an experience for the consumers. And I think there's definitely a
Yep.
lot with where platinum is going that allows retailers to bring more
Definitely.
value into that experience, for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess, yeah, we're
Cool.
at 1 hour in. So I think just wrapping it up and just checking some of the
Yeah.
boxes, I think we covered many aspects that we talked about at the forum. Last September, we focused a little bit more on the markets and what each of the market leaders, be it manufacturers or retailers, were doing to drive the market and what they see. But I think just to kind of summarize it all up, I think it's the price advantage is there for platinum. It makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more
Yep.
value for money. The platinum quality can really uplift the brand, can uplift the product, brings up the entire perception of what it's offering. It gives a better product for the consumer. It's higher
Yep.
quality, more value for money. And then that's something that we're comparing this with 18K, 14K, and all the superior quality of platinum, be it it's naturally white, it's more durable, it holds stones better, it's better for daily wear against wear and tear. So all those aspects, I think a lot of people know. But I think the other bit is, yeah, retailers could be doing a better business. They have more stories to tell. They can create better experience and value for their consumers. And then the other aspect is that there's a lot of technology coming online, a lot of innovation, a lot of new things around alloys, around equipment, around manufacturing. And we're just talking about the digital product passport, even on the selling floor, also around the product. There's a lot of technology to help
Yep.
support, build that value and experience around a platinum piece. Yeah. Yeah. Am I missing
Definitely.
anything? And we're always around, right?
Well, I
PGI,
said, oh,
Josh and Tai are always
yeah.
around to help source, to help troubleshoot,
Yep.
to help with production, to help with innovation. So, yeah. And
Yep.
then I think just for 2026, we'll see a lot more technical videos on Platinum APC. We were thinking about holding back a little bit on the innovation and sort of facilitate more on the technology and production front. But I think having this conversation, I think the innovation it's equally exciting. So maybe we'll focus back down on that too. So yeah. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Josh.
Well,
Thank you for your
thank you,
time.
Tai.
Yeah.